system, which is our main discussion today, is divided into sympathetic and parasympathetic. Now comes the most important point of the parasympathetic division. It is that in the parasympathetic division, we have a very long preganglionic fiber. The preganglionic fiber is so long that in most of the cases it almost reaches up to the viscera, it almost reaches up to the wall of the viscera of the organ it is supposed to supply. So a thing is, if the preganglion is reaching up to the viscera of the organ, obviously then the post ganglionic fiber will originate, and it has to run a very small distance, which means that the length of the post ganglionic parasympathetic neuron will be very less in this case. It is from fractions of millimeters to few centimeters in this case. That is one point. And point number two, as the length of the preganglionic sympathetic neuron is very long, so it will have a cell body in a nucleus of a nerve, and will enter or will project into another ganglia, that we shall discuss later on. And one more point, that is actually the extension of this portion. The parasympathetic sagral outflow, which is named as the pelvic nerve, this is also named as the nervi erigentis. It will supply the pelvic viscera, because pelvic nerve, obviously it will supply the pelvic viscera via the branches of the second to fourth sagral spinal nerve. That is self-explanatory.
What do you mean by excitatory cymatic potential, and exactly what happens? In this case, when the neurotransmitters bind to the postsynaptic membrane, there is opening of the Na plus channels with Na plus influx into the cell. Simultaneously, there may be opening of the K plus channels and also the K plus efflux from the cell. However, though the conductance of both Na plus and K plus both increases, Na plus influx is more than K plus influx. So, what results is that the negativity inside the cell decreases. So, the resting membrane potential goes towards the firing potential, and an action potential is generated. So, this is what is happening in excitatory postsynaptic potential. Now, an example of the neurotransmitter that excites is epinephrine, norepinephrine. Inhibitory postsynaptic potential. In this case, when the neurotransmitter binds to the receptors on the postsynaptic membrane, then the chloride channels open with chloride influx into the cell. Alternatively, the potassium channels may open, and there may be potassium efflux from the cell. In either of the two processes, what results is that the cell is hyperpolarized and the negativity inside the cell increases. So what happens is that the resting membrane potential moves away from the firing potential and causes inhibition with no generation of any action potential. So this is what is inhibitory postsynaptic potential.
As we learned from the previous presentations, autonomic neurons stimulate or inhibit their target cells by the release of chemicals called neurotransmitters. Acetylcholine, norepinephrine, and epinephrine are the principal neurotransmitters involved in the autonomic nervous system. Acetylcholine is released by both sympathetic and parasympathetic preganglionic nerve fibers, almost all parasympathetic postganglionic nerve fibers, and a few sympathetic postganglionic nerve fibers, which sweat glands. And someone is unmuted.
Yeah, someone please unmute. Yes, mute. Yes.
And
Swarna, little go
Yes.
slow, and you on your pointer or something, or you whenever you are telling yes.
Okay, ma'am. So, almost all postgang. I'm starting over again. Acetylcholine is released by both sympathetic and parasympathetic preganglionic nerve fibers, almost all parasympathetic postganglionic nerve fibers, and a few sympathetic postganglionic nerve fibers, which innervate.
If anyone has unmute, please mute it. Yes, now you start.
Which innervates sweat glands and blood vessels in some skeletal muscles. The rest of the sympathetic postganglionic nerve fibers secrete norepinephrine. Epinephrine is secreted by the adrenal medulla and reaches the target cell via circulation. Before acetylcholine, norepinephrine and epinephrine secreted by the autonomic nerve endings can stimulate an affected organ or the effector organ. It must first bind with specific receptors on the effector cell. The receptor is on the outside of the cell membrane, bound as a prosthetic group to a protein molecule that penetrates all the way through the cell membrane. Binding of the neurotransmitter with the receptor causes a conformational change in the structure of the protein molecule, which might subsequently stimulate or inhibit the effector cell. The two classes of receptors include cholinereceptors and adrenoreceptors. Cholinereceptors, which are activated by acetylcholine, are of two types, nicotinic and muscarinic. Adrenoreceptors, which are found in the target tissues of sympathetic nervous system, are activated by catecholamines such as norepinephrine and epinephrine. They are divided into two types, alpha and beta, which are further designated as alpha 1, alpha 2, beta 1, beta 2, and beta 3 receptors. These are the resources we use to create this presentation. And with this, we come to the end of the presentation. Thank you for your patience.
Yeah, Shwarnava, I wanted to know about this last slide. I asked in the morning, what is? Can you explain? What is
Ma'am,
this?
ma'am, this is actually a reference to the Marvel movie Endgame, where Robert Downey Jr., the Iron Man, has the Infinity Gauntlet, and with this, it causes the death of the supervillain, that is Thanos. So this slide represents the end of the presentation. So with
Very
this slide, we are causing the death of the
Very good. Whatever the cartoons and the in between this, you have your group has been incorporated. It is very good and very good presentation.
Focus today is the action of the sympathetic division of the autonomic nervous system. The sympathetic division gears up the body for the following reactions in different body parts. First of all, the heart. There is an increased heart rate and an enhanced blood pressure, increased blood pressure. This increases the blood flow and the perfusion to various organs. There is a dilation of the coronary blood vessels. Dilation of the coronary blood vessels means more amount of blood can reach the heart muscles. There is an increased availability of oxygen to the heart so that the heart can pump efficiently to meet the needs of the body. Next, coming to the circulation. Now, different blood vessels act differently. There is a dilation of the blood vessels which is serving the muscles because you need an increased supply of oxygen, increased supply of blood and therefore oxygen to the skeletal muscles. And there is a constriction of blood vessels serving digestion because when we are coming face to face in an emergency situation, when we are confronting an emergency situation, at that point of time, the body doesn't really bother whether the breakfast we had in the morning, that food is getting broken down or not. So that blood which was going to the digestive system can now go to the muscles. So the blood is instead, it is diverted away from the digestive system to the muscles and brain. Therefore, constriction of blood vessels which is serving digestion. Coming to the lungs, there is a dilation of the bronchi and an increase in the respiratory rate. You breathe fast because this is to increase the availability of oxygen in blood. Coming to the liver, there is an increased breakdown of glycogen to glucose in the liver. There is increased glycogenolysis, there is increased lipolysis. All of this is to increase the glucose in the bloodstream because increased availability of glucose is required to the skeletal muscles and brain cells. More glucose, more ATP to enable the muscles to act well. Then coming to the skin, there is cutaneous vasoconstriction because the blood flow to the skin needs to be reduced for two reasons. First of all, so that there is an increased blood flow to the muscles so that the blood can be diverted away from the skin to the more essential parts, essential in the sense which is essential for this response, that is the muscles. Because when we are confronting an emergency situation, we don't really need our skin to be more vascularized and rosy at that point of time. So the blood is diverted to the muscles. And secondly, cutaneous vasoconstriction also reduces the blood loss through peripheral wounds. Coming to the eyes, there is a dilation of the pupils. It allows more light so that visual acuity can be improved to scan and perceive the nearby surroundings well.
What is vagal tone? This is very important because this vagal tone is actually the activity of the vagus nerve, the 10th cranial nerve, and a fundamental component of the parasympathetic branch of the autonomic nervous system. Now, this is this vagal tone is actually the activity of the ANS while we are resting or during our digestion. Now, this is again the subset of the resting tone, which is actually the autonomic nervous system, which is continuously active during rest, and this constitutes the resting tone, and this vagal tone is actually a subset of this resting tone. Now, the influences of the vagus nerve. it has an influence in inflammation. It suppresses the inflammation via the cholinergic anti-inflammatory pathway. In the mouth the test information is sent via 3 cranial nerves, and one of them is vagus nerve. In heart, it decreases the contractility of the heart, which further decreases the heart rate and the vascular tone. In blood vessel, it decreases the vascular tone and lowers the blood pressure. In gut, it increases the gastric juices, gut motility, stomach acidity. In liver, it regulates the insulin secretion via the pancreas, which further influences the glucose or carbohydrate homeostasis in the liver. In the brain, it helps to keep tide over the anxiety and depression. And in all the aspects, we can see that there's a sharp contrast between the sympathetic nerve and the action of the sympathetic nerve and the action of the parasympathetic nerve. Next, a bit of applied physiology. Now, excessive vagal tone, this can lead to cerebral hypoperfusion, which leads to underlying cause of the pallid breath holding spells. Now, this is sometimes merged with bradycardia or asystole, which is seen in children. Now, again, loss of vagal tone is also not very good, because it is caused due to the cardiovascular diseases, depression of the cardiac vagal limb of the baroreceptor reflex, and this may also lead to the loss of respiratory sinus arrhythmia.
In correlation with respiratory system, the respiratory system has our conducting airways have a unique, special feature of presence of smooth muscles. Now, as the sympathetic effect of sympathetic stimulation of the smooth muscle, as the sympathetic stimulation, these nerve endings are adrenergic nerve endings. The neurotransmitter acts on beta-2 receptor that are present on smooth muscle of the bronchial tree. The sympathetic nerve fiber acts on this beta-2 receptor via noradrenaline and causes bronchodilation. Now, this mechanism occurs. The adrenaline causes this beta-2 receptor, activates beta-2 receptor, which causes the relaxation of smooth muscles of our conduction airways, as a result of which causes bronchodilation. This decreases the airway resistance and increases the airflow, as a result of which, to meet the need of ventilation during fight and flight reaction. Now, in the same condition, as the sympathetic nervous system is causing the vasodilation, this can be applied to clinical conditions such as obstructive airway diseases, like where we can use the beta-2 antagonist like salbutamol, levobuterol, terbutaline, which causes bronchodilation to increase this ventilation. Now, clinical correlation in this topic is bronchial asthma. At first, we need to discuss about asthma. Asthma is episodic breathlessness with chest tightness and wheezing cough. Now, the causes of asthma is generally it is correlated with the hypersensitiveness and allergy. Now, it is a condition where the reversible inflammation and narrowing of the respiratory airways of bronchial tree occurs. The patient doesn't feel any problem during inspiration, but the problem occurs at the time of expiration, where the bronchospasm occurs. Now, as we have studied that the beta-2 agonist cause bronchodilation, we can apply it here, which the beta-2 agonist like salbutamol causes bronchodilation. So it will relax the smooth muscle of our airway to relieve the symptom. Other treatments of asthma can be steroids, which reduces the inflammation, histamine inhibitors and leukotriene inhibitors, which reduces their effects on bronchoconstriction. Now, the effect of parasympathetic stimulation on our respiratory system. The parasympathetic stimulation of ANS acts through cholinergic endings. This mainly acetylcholine is the neuroreceptor here. The parasympathetic and which acts on M3 receptor, which are located in smooth muscle of the lung. This M3 receptor causes calcium influx in bronchial muscle, which causes vasoconstriction. This vasoconstriction increases our airway resistance and it causes decreased airflow. This anticholinergic drug or M3 inhibitors drugs like ipratropium bromide, oxytropium bromide inhibits the action of acetylcholine, which are all used to treat various disorders like asthma, chronic obstructive pulmonary diseases. Okay, thank you, ma'am.
So as we come to the end gradually, finally summing up the functions of both the parasympathetic as well as the sympathetic nervous system. On the left side, we can see that the parasympathetic nervous system is responsible for rest and digest actions. That is the normal day-to-day functions of our body. So its actions include the constriction of pupil, slowing of heartbeat, constriction of airways, constriction of the urinary bladder, etc. And it also has stimulatory action on the GI system, thereby stimulating salivation, activity of stomach, stimulating the gallbladder, and stimulating the activity of intestines. On the right side, when we come to the sympathetic nervous system, these are responsible for the fight or flight actions. That is to help the body to cope up with the emergency demands. Thereby, its actions also reflect the same. As we can see, it helps in the dilatation of pupils, increasing the heartbeat, relaxation of airways, and relaxation of the urinary bladder. And it has the inhibitory action on the GI system. That is opposite of the parasympathetic, thereby inhibiting salivation, inhibiting gallbladder, inhibiting intestines, etc.
And here we come to the end of this.